Hernandez.
Hello.
We're so excited to have everyone coming in on National Creativity Day. There couldn't be really a better time than today to start putting your creativity to good use and learning how to make a mask, which is what we're going to be doing here. And we're excited to be welcoming you all. So thanks for coming. Where's everyone from? We'd love to hear where everyone is chiming in from today. We have some California, like Carolina. She's based in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
Florida, Ohio, wow, Miami. Amazing. Some Texas. That's where Michael's is headquartered. Shout out. Missouri, Memphis. Unbelievable.
Nice.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you. We're excited. Excited to have people coming in from coast to coast, learning how to do some mask making. PEI Canada. Wow, that's awesome. I'm actually from Canada as well. That's so fun. New York, some Ottawa. Wow, Ottawa, another Canadian. That's great. We love to see people coming in from all over North America.
Nice.
So today, as we talked about, Carolina is going to be taking us through a workshop where we go step by step on how to do your own homemade mask out of fabrics, which is really exciting. And I think the cool thing about mask making is that not only can you order fabric and get what you need from Michael's or from somewhere else in your community, but you can also just use some stuff around the home, right, Carolina?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
If you have any t-shirts made out of cotton, you can repurpose them and cut them out and use that to make your own mask at home.
Love that. And I would be curious in the chat. We're loving hearing where you're from, but it'd be awesome has anyone here made masks before? Is this your first time making masks? Let us know. I think this is mask making for beginners, so we're going to go through nice and slow today, but regardless, it'll be cool if people have had the experience in the past. So there's definitely first timers, a lot of first timers, but there's some people who've made them before too.
Oh, okay.
There's some people that have made them, but they weren't happy with the first result, Carolina. So you're going to have to take them through it nice and slow and get them perfecting it today, hopefully. But that's the beautiful thing about making, right? You can be making, you can do your best, but you can always try and perfect it if this first time isn't perfect. So all good. We're happy that everyone's joining from across the country, from across North America. We'll give people another minute or so to get on. We still have people joining in, and then we'll get started. We'll kick things off. So when did you make your first mask, Carolina?
So, when we got the order that we have to cover our face or nose, is when I was like, okay, so what am I going to do with this machine? So I'm like, let me make a mask. That way we can protect ourselves and also, meet the regulations that we have to cover ourselves when we go to a store, when we go, to get gas, food, whatever. So I made a pattern first with different styles, different samples, different styles. And this is the one that I liked the most because I felt like it was kind of like more closer to the face and it had like a better seal, obviously you're going to be able to breathe, but at the same time, you don't want anything too bulky around your face because if you're going to wear it for a couple hours, you want to be kind of, you're going to be comfortable.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
How many masks do you think you've made now?
So, like I said, we started just making for us and then for the, the guys in the service. And next thing you know, people want to buy it. So that's how we started making more. I think so far we have made over 2,000 masks.
Wow.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Well, we're going to get started. Before I pass things off to you, I'd like to just give an overview and welcome everyone to the class. So welcome everyone. It's National Creativity Day. We're going to get started. Today, we're here with Carolina Hernandez. Carolina is based in Los Angeles, California. She is not only a fashion designer, so she certainly is going to be able to help us and give you an amazing template to make masks for. Carolina is also a U.S. Navy chief, so we thank her for her service. She has been working on the reserve recently and helping there, so thank you so much for that. And not only are you making masks and of course, distributing them in your community, but Carolina has also been, as she just mentioned, donating them to military and veteran hospitals as well, which is so cool. So thank you for that. We at Michaels recognized Carolina as a hero difference maker earlier in the month of May. So we started noticing when the pandemic hit, when COVID-19 happened and people were forced into quarantine, that so many makers across the country, so many Americans and North Americans were putting their talents to good use. So we started a campaign called the Difference Makers campaign, where we recognized people who were using their talents to give back. And whether it is mask making or using chalk art to spread happiness and hope in their communities. And we really spotlighted 15 Americans that use their talents for good. And Carolina Hernandez was one of those people. And we're so happy to have her here today to lead this class with us. So if you know anyone, today is the last day of the month. You can go on to michaels.com/differencemakers. Following this class, you can nominate someone who is giving back and doing something good during the pandemic, or you can post about them on social media using the hashtag difference makers and tag Michaels Stores. So we just wanted to give you a bit of background there. Another great thing is that today, each one of you that joins the class, for each one of you, Michaels is donating $1 to the Boys and Girls Clubs of America's COVID-19 Relief Fund. So just another reason we can get excited about making today and know that we're doing something to give back in the community. So before I pass things off to Carolina, I'm just going to review the supply list for the class today. And we'll be stopping and answering your questions throughout. So it's going to be fun. So what we recommend for today's making class is to have 1/4 of a yard of print cotton fabric. If you don't, any fabric from around your home would work as well too. So any old clothing, anything like that. As well as an 11-inch or 1/4 of or 1/8 of an inch of inch elastic.
Plastic.
And then a sewing machine and thread. That is really what you need in front of you today. But we'll get started, and I'll pass it over to Carolina, and she'll take you guys through mask making.
Okay, first of all, I want to say thank you for joining. You're going to have so much fun. You're going to be a pro by the time we're done with this class. And please, if you have any questions, I know some of you is your first time, which is totally fine. This is super easy to make, and I'm going to guide you step by step on how to do it, okay? So like we mentioned, you don't have to use, a lot of fabric. It's going to be literally like a quarter of a yard of fabric. In this case, I'm using a print, and then I'm also using a solid fabric, okay? The pattern I'm using is this design. This is a regular size design, which it fits, it's gonna fit male and females. I'm gonna say it's kind of like one size fits most, right? Because it's not gonna fit bigger person, and it's not gonna fit like kids. This is for adults, okay? And yes, you can sew it by hand if you don't have a sewing machine, okay? I'm gonna guide you through the process, okay?
And one thing people are asking about right away, Carolina, is where they can get the pattern, of course. So we will be sharing the pattern on the Michaels website afterwards, along with the recording of this video. So you'll be able to access that on Monday at michaels.com/classes for everyone asking.
Absolutely. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, I'm going to cut 2 of my pattern, okay? So I'm going to fold my fabric, and I already cut it, but I'm just going to show you how to cut it, okay? So you're going to fold your fabric, because remember, the good thing about this fabric is you can use either side, okay? So you're going to place your pattern, you trace it, and then you're going to cut it, which I already have it cut it right here, okay? This is my pattern, okay? The black one, it's already here, okay? And I'm going to do the same thing with the print fabric, okay? And same thing, I'm gonna fold it because I'm gonna cut 2, right? So I'm gonna fold it. This is my print. And see how the cuts are going in this direction, right? You have to kind of like be mindful a little bit when it's a print. So I'm gonna fold it because I need a right side and left side, and that's how I'm gonna place my pattern.
Amazing.
The way I tell people is that you see this line right here is called the selvage. So when you place a pattern, you want it to be parallel to that line, okay? So it's gonna be like this. And same thing, I'm gonna trace it. I'm gonna trace it, okay? And then I'm gonna cut it. So once I do that, I'm gonna have this, okay? Which is pretty much my right and my left, okay? Right and left, this is the outside of my mask. And then I have my right and left. This is gonna be the inside, kind of like the lining of my mask. You don't have to do, you can do another print here if you want to, or you can make it all solid if you want to. You know, some people love prints. I love prints. If you wanna make it solid, you make it solid. If you wanna make it print, then you make it print, okay?
Before we jump into the next bit, Carolina, people are asking, what are the measurements of the template? Do you have an idea of what?
Yes, so the measurement, it's gonna be about, without the seam allowance, it's gonna be about 5 inches. This is folded, so if you go around the face, it's gonna go side to side. So it's gonna be about 10 inches. So if you measure your face from side to side, it's gonna be about 10 inches. And then the height is gonna be 6 inches, not counting the seam allowance. So it's about 6 1/4. The height, which is gonna go above the nose, and it's gonna go below the chin. And then, you know, we're doing a 1/2 inch seam allowance on the side. So I'm not really counting that. So it's 5 inches.
Wonderful.
Okay. So the first thing I'm gonna do is like making a sandwich, right? We all make sandwiches before. I'm gonna face my right sides together, okay? You can start with your print, or you can start with your solid fabric. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna use like 3 pins so that my fabric doesn't move, okay? 3 pins only. So what I'm gonna do, you see my seam allowance here, it's about 1/4 inch, right? 1/4 inch. So I'm gonna stitch along 1/4 inch, okay? And if you wanna use a ruler to trace it, you can do that, okay? Because I know some of you, they already are experts at sewing, but if you don't feel too comfortable, you can trace it, it's totally fine. And then the other thing too, I don't wanna go too close to the edge because I don't want my stitching to come off, okay? Because remember, this is gonna be my center front of my mask. So same thing, I'm gonna trace 1/4 inch all the way, okay? Just kind of like this. You can use a ruler if it's easier for you. I'm just doing it so I can show you, okay? And same thing, if you don't have a sewing machine, you will be stitching from here to this end by hand, okay? It's the same, it's pretty much the same steps. The only difference is I'm using a sewing machine, but you can do it by hand if you don't have a sewing machine. Okay, are you guys there with me? So the first thing I'm gonna do, you can either start from the bottom or you can start from the top, and I'm gonna do back stitch. Back stitch is going a little stitching forward and back to secure my fabric, and then I'm gonna come all the way down, and then I'm gonna back stitch at the end. Okay, so I'm gonna try to go slow in case you lose me. Okay, so I'm using black thread because this is gonna be in the inside of my mask. So kind of like nobody's gonna see the seam, right? I know sometimes if you're using a print that has multiple colors and you wanna use a different color, that's kind of like up to you, okay?
Carolina, do you want to move your camera over a little bit so your
Yes.
sewing machine's a little more in view? There we go, that's perfect.
Is that good right there? Okay. So like, as I mentioned, right, let me move it closer so you can see. I'm gonna start right here, back stitch. I'm gonna come down to the end and then I'm gonna back stitch, okay? So I'm gonna go a couple of stitches. I'm gonna back stitch and I'm just gonna go along the line, which is 1/4 inch seam allowance, okay? And see, I use my hands to pivot the fabric. You don't have to do it fast. If it's your first time using a sewing machine, you're gonna be okay. You know, just take your time. And then once I get to the end, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna back stitch a couple of stitches and then that's it. So see, I have my stitching. I back stitch at the beginning, back stitch at the end. And this
what
is
does that back stitch do, Carolina? What does that back stitch do? Does it help it?
It's to secure it, because you know, sometimes if you don't stitch, like if you don't secure a couple of times here, and when you flip it over, it might come off.
Great.
Yeah, so this is my outer. You see, it's kind of like, you know, kind of curvy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Are
so
those cats on there? Is that like a cat pattern?
Those are cats.
Having fun. Going
This is
for
one of
it.
my favorite fabrics from Michael's, actually, the cats. Very popular. So now I'm gonna repeat the same step, okay? I'm gonna put my sandwich together, okay? And I'm gonna pin it. Same thing, I only need 3 pins. Okay. And you want your pins to come in. I know sometimes people like to pin them like this, right? But they're kind of get on the way, because the foot of the machine is kind of gonna, you know, run it over. So just do it this way, that way you can move them if you have to. And I'm gonna do the same thing at the end. So I'm gonna repeat the same step, okay? So I'm gonna do, you know, my stitching right here. I know this is gonna be kind of hard to see because it's black, but I'm gonna do the same thing, right? My 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around on the curved side, okay? Which is the same thing I did right here. I'm gonna flip it so you guys can see what I'm doing, so that, okay? It's the same thing I'm doing. So a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way. If you don't have a ruler, you can use your measuring tape too, or you can really use any type of ruler to mark your 1/4 inch seam allowance. Or if you're comfortable, I know some people tape their machines to know where their guide is. You can do that as well, depending on how comfortable you feel. And then same thing, if you don't have a sewing machine, you can also do it by hand, and we will do the same thing. You will be stitching from here, and then you will go all the way until you get to this end, okay? So once again, I'm gonna repeat the same step. You can start from the top, you can start from the bottom. It's up to you. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring it to my sewing machine. I'm gonna do a couple of stitches, and I'm gonna come out, back stitch, there you go. Now I'm gonna move forward. Same thing, I'm gonna follow my 1/4 inch seam allowance, okay? And I'm going slow. 1/4 inch seam allowance, and like I mentioned earlier, you don't want to do it too close to the edge, because you don't want the seam to come out, especially when you're wearing it. Okay, I'm gonna back stitch because I'm at the end of it. And see, that's it. Back stitch at the beginning, all the way around, and back stitch at the end, okay? Now that I have my 2 pieces to put together, my outer liner and my inner lining, I'm gonna open them, okay? And if you get confused, if you don't know which one is the top, which one is the bottom, because for some reason you end up something you're like, oh my God, I don't know, just put it in front of you, and you're gonna see that the top, it has like a point, it has a curve like this. So you know that's the top, sorry, that will be the nose. So it will be like this, okay? In case for some reason you were like confused, you don't know which one is the top, which one is the bottom. You see
Carolina, we have a couple of questions here. So
yes.
One is that, does the fabric need to be 100% cotton, and can you serge the ends?
I'm not gonna serge the edges because we were gonna close the seam, so you don't wanna add too much bulkiness inside. I mean, you could if you want. The only one that I wouldn't recommend is the front seam, because that's gonna be at the center front.
Right. So and does it have to be 100% cotton fabric?
You can use poly cotton, which is, you know, you don't want to use anything too like plasticky, like nylon, or like, you know, flannel, the fuzzy fabric. I mean, it's a cute fabric, but can you actually breathe when you're wearing it? You got to think about, you know, functionality a little bit, okay? And the cool thing about cotton, it's even if you have like old sheets at home or blankets that you don't need, you can use that type of thin. You see the fabric is super thin, and you know the cool thing about cotton is it's breathable. That you will put it on your face once you make your mask, and you see that it's very lightweight and you can still breathe. Okay, so now that I have my 2 pieces, right? Well, I guess the question that you asked about if they can serge it with a machine, I'll say yes, they can if they want to. So now that I have my 2 pieces, okay, I'm gonna open them both, and I'm gonna face them each other, okay? So I got my front and my back. And this time I'm gonna pin both top and bottom, okay? And your guide is gonna be the seam right here. You wanna make sure those 2 seams match, okay? I don't know if you guys can see, but those seams needs to match. I'm gonna put a pin right there. And I'm probably gonna put another one so my fabric doesn't move. And remember, this seam is this one up here, okay? Which is the same thing, it's a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm gonna also do the same thing on this side, which is my top. Same thing, pin it. And I'm gonna do the same thing at the bottom. So I'm gonna pin it. And once again, if you don't have a sewing machine, you can also do this other stitching by hand as well.
Amazing.
Okay, so I'm gonna pin my two sections right here. And then also all the way down, I'm gonna put another 2 more pins. And this is my bottom seam. So I'm gonna do the same thing, okay? I'm gonna start right here.
So are you pinning the center seam open or closed?
It doesn't matter. Like the center seam, this one?
Yep.
No, it doesn't have to be open because it's really small. And it literally won't get on the way. So you can actually have it facing this way or moving this way or both to the same side. It's really thin, so it doesn't matter. It's not gonna get on the way at all. And it doesn't have to be open either. Mm-hmm.
And would you be able to make the mask reversible by turning the materials away from each other?
Yes, so once we switch it, once we sew it, you can use it on the solid side. You can turn it around and use it on the cat side, yes.
Cool.
So that's what I said, you can use 2 prints if you want to use 2 prints. So it's kind of like having 2 masks in one, you know? So I'm not going to mark all the way around, but I just want to show you that it's going to be the same thing. Okay, I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around here and then all the way to the other side. And we have to be a little bit careful right here because this is a curve that we're sewing around. So just, you know, don't go too, you need to go a little slow to make sure that you kind of like manage the machine to go around this curve, okay? And once again, you can use your hands to pivot the fabric, okay? So that's gonna be like that. Once again, this is my top seam, that right here. And then the bottom seam is gonna be the same thing. So I'm tracing both because I'm gonna go ahead and stitch both so you can see how it's gonna look. So 1/4 inch seam allowance. You can use a pen. I wouldn't suggest to use a marker just because you don't want it to bleed on the outside, but you can use a pen if you want to as well to make sure that you can see that, you know, that tracing of the seam allowance. Okay, so just like that. So I'm gonna do the same thing, okay? You can start on either side. You can start right here, or you can start right here, or vice versa. You can start right here. I always suggest to start where you don't have too much fabric in the inside of the machine, kind of like this, because otherwise you have all this fabric crumbling over here. So I would rather start right here, so my fabric on this side it can move around. So I'm gonna start at the bottom right here. I'm gonna back stitch, and I'm gonna go all the way to this seam allowance, okay? So I'm gonna start right here. Do a couple of stitching out, and I want to go in. I'm gonna go slow so you can see.
So what about our inserting a filter into the mask? Is that something you've done, Carolina?
Yes. So that what you will do is you will cut another set, which will be the filter, and you will stitch it to this seam. You know how we connected the first sandwich, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of being 2 layers, you will put the filter on top of it to make it 4 layers. So let's say if you put it right here, it will be, you know, attached to this seam right here. I don't know if I explained myself.
No, I think that makes.
Or I can show you once it's finished, you can cut a like a rectangle, and you can insert it through one of the sides to have a filter inside as well.
And someone asked too, why did you not use infusible interfacing in the mask?
Infusible interfacing. The way we made him is 100% cotton, so I didn't think you will have to have any to add interfacing.
Yep.
Also, I mean, it's your choice. If you feel like you want to have an extra layer of protection, you can absolutely do that. The other thing, I'm not gonna say problem, but the interfacing sometimes it makes it a little stiff, so I would suggest to wash it before you put it on. I mean, if it's the kind that I'm thinking that you will have to iron it, you know, it makes the fabric a little stiff. So as you guys can see, I already finished this seam, right? Back stitch all the way around, back stitch right here. I'm gonna repeat the same step on the other side.
Looking good, coming together.
Okay, and we're pretty much like almost done. And same thing.
Make it look so easy, Carolina.
It is easy. Okay, if you don't have a sewing machine, you will have to do the same thing. You know, you will do it by hand. And my only suggestion is you might have to make the stitching a little tighter, because you don't want your stitches to be like so spread out that when you turn it around, you see the holes. Okay, so I'm pretty much kind of like almost done. So now that I have this, right, you know how I stitch on this side, right? You can stitch on either side, but I think it's easier this way because I can see where my stitching is going, right? So now I'm gonna turn it right side out. Okay, so I'm gonna grab either side. I'm gonna put my hand through it and then just flip the fabric. Okay. And as you can see, it's pretty much double-sided. So I have my solid side on this side, and then I have my cat side on the other side, or my print side on the other side.
People are asking about if you've ever inserted anything for a nose bridge or how to hold the nose part up.
Yes. So, okay, let me just turn it around. Let me show you something really quick. So if you're gonna add wire, some of the masks that we make, we add some wire. What I will do, you can put it right here, and you can zigzag it, or you can serge it with an overlock machine, and it's gonna create like a little gap in the stitching, which you can insert the wire right there. You see how it's like the two sections right here? You can literally insert the wire right there, or you can do it by hand. You can insert a little piece of wire. I would suggest maybe like 5 inches in length, and then you can just sandwich it and stitch it right here. That way it gets strapped right here. But yes, you can do that. But you will have to do it on the wrong side of the fabric. That way it doesn't show in the front.
And what kind of wire would you recommend?
So there is this, you can buy, you know, the wire that we use for flowers, to tie flowers, or
Yep.
those, the pipe cleaners. I know I've seen some people using pipe cleaners.
Yep.
Or the ones that we use to tag bags. You know, when you have, you can use the florist wire as long as it's super, super thin. You don't want anything too heavy right here, too bulky. Those little, they sell it, you know, like the candy bags that have this little wire that you tie the bag.
The twist tie, a twist tie,
yes,
yeah.
Twist tie. So, like, I can think of the name. Those, you can use those as well. Anything that is thin, because you don't want, you can use jewelry wire. Anything that is thin, that is not going to hurt, or it's not going to be too heavy. The only thing, if you have the metal itself, you will have to bend the edge, like, you know, like that way it's not poking you.
Perfect. And someone else asks, when you're sewing the seam area, should the center seam be stitched in the same direction?
No, it can be, sometimes I do it, see, like, look at this one. I have one to one side, the other one is facing the other side. That's not going to matter because you won't see that. And this fabric, the cool thing about cotton, it's so thin that nobody's going to know, you know, if you were in your max, nobody's going to tell you, oh, you stitched it the wrong way. You know, like, nobody's going to know. Because it's so thin. And you'll see when I flip it around, you're going to see that there's no difference because it's so thin. Same thing on the bottom. See, you don't know which one is which one, but it's so thin that you won't even feel it either. So now that I have it like this, right? If you want to insert a filter, you can, like I said, you can cut a rectangle, insert it before you close the sides. Or at the beginning when we cut our fabric and then our solid fabric, you can cut an extra layer of the filter and add it to this part before we close it. Okay. So
and would you recommend ironing it, Carolina?
Yes. So at this point, you will iron it to make sure you remove all the wrinkles. Okay. The other thing too, the good thing about cotton, it's very easy to iron it. Like you're not gonna be struggling. The only thing is when you iron it, you gotta make sure that these seams are flat. You know, that's just more like a, you know, like to make sure it looks good, but you gotta make sure that these seams are flat. And as you can see, I cut my other side the same size. I didn't make it smaller because usually sometimes when you add lining, you cut it a little smaller. In this case, I cut it the same way in case you want to use this other side. So it looks the same. It's the same size, the same length. And once we put the elastic, you can literally, you won't have like a right side and wrong side. Both sides are gonna look nice. Okay, so now.
Someone is asking as well, before we move on, can you do a pocket for the wire on the outside? So if it's stitched in, how can you wash it?
You can wash it by hand. You can wash it by hand. Also, like, I'm not gonna lie, I throw mine in the washer and they were fine.
Wow.
Yeah, they were perfectly fine. And then I forgot because he went in one of my dresses. It got dropped in one of my dresses. He went in the dryer too, and he was perfectly fine.
Oh, great. And do you normally wash your fabric before you use it for the masks or after you've used it?
Sometimes I do to see if it's going to shrink. Because that cool thing, the thing with cotton is sometimes it shrinks a little bit. And the only reason with a mask I don't wash it before is because I like once it's completed and we wash it, it kind of shrinks together. Like not a lot. It's like you can slightly notice it. Mm-hmm. But it kind of gets the fabric like close together, so I think it looks nicer and it has a better fit too.
Cool.
Okay, so now the elastic. Okay, so this is 1/8 of an inch elastic. You can use, let me show you, you can use 1/4 of an inch. You don't want anything too big because it's gonna go around your ear, so it's gonna be up to you, or also what you have at home, right? I know some people don't have, you know, the means to buy elastic, but anything that you can have that stretches. Okay, and we want to use for each side 5.5 inch. Okay, it's gonna be 5.5 inch in length. So I'm gonna cut 2 because obviously we have 2 ears, so 2. I know sometimes people want to use the type of so I have 2, 5.5. The type of elastic that goes across the head. Okay, if you want it to go across, so if this is my mask, you want the elastic to come all the way around like this. Then you will have to measure your head if it's for you, and then see how much elastic you want to add, you know, like to go like this, if you want it to go like that. Or if you wanted to add strings that you can tie in the back. In this case, in my opinion, for us, it was more convenient to do the elastic because then, you know, like if somebody has a face a little more round, then it's like it's still gonna fit. Or if somebody has like a narrow face, you know, same thing, it will fit.
So a couple of questions here on the elastic. Can you use hair ties?
Yes, you can.
That's cool. That's a good, cute, cool suggestion. And then someone's asking if they cut their, what will it work if they cut their elastic band into strips? Will the edges fray?
Say that. Oh, like if you have a 1-inch elastic and you cut it out?
Yes, a wider one. Yes.
I will think it depends on the elastic. Some elastics, this one is really small, so you won't be able to see it. But some elastics, you can actually cut it because it has some little, the way it's knitted, that you can cut them smaller and it will be fine. But some elastics, you cut them and oh my God, you have a hot mess. So it will have to be depending on the quality of the elastic. But yes, you can do that. If you have a, let's say 1 inch elastic, and it's the type that you can cut it in smaller ones and it will be fine. Or you can test, you know, cut a piece, stretch it, try it, test it. And if you think it's going to be good, then you can use that as well. Mm-hmm.
So did you cut the 11 inch of the 11 inches of the 1/8 elastic in half for yours?
No, I cut two 5.5s. You can also do that. You can cut 11 and then cut it in half. Absolutely.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. It's your preference. You don't have to do exactly how I'm showing you, but if you find a better way to do it, you can absolutely definitely do that. Okay, so now we're going to add the elastic, right? Now I have my shape like this. And as you can see, I have a 1/2 inch seam allowance, okay? And the reason why I made this one bigger than this size is because on this section right here, we want to add the elastic, and I want to make sure I don't show any raw seams, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fold it in, okay? 1/2 inch. And if you don't know what 1/2 inch is, you can definitely, you know, like trace it a little bit. So I'm going to mark right there. This is my 1/2 inch. And then I do the same thing on my other side. So this is 1/2 inch right there, okay? Just as a guide. And you're going to fold in, okay? So I'm going to grab it and fold in like this, okay? That way it looks nice and clean. You guys see that? So fold in like that. You know, in the Navy, they always tell us we use your hands as iron. So you want to use my hand to iron. You iron with your hands. So I want to make sure it's flat. So now that I have it folded, you see how I did it, right? I'm going to just fold it in 1/2 inch. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just folding it in. So now, before I stitch it, I'm going to add a dart right here. A little fold like this. That is going to be also like about 1/2 inch. Okay? It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be accurate. The only reason that I had to take a small section out of here is because if I don't do that, when you put the mask, I'm sure you have seen people wearing masks, they have a little flap like this, and they have like a little hole where it has the elastic, and you have like a little, like a gap right here. It's because they don't have a dart. So when you add a dart, it's gonna be fitted to your face. Pretty much what we're doing is contouring the fabric to go around your face, okay? So like I said, maybe like about 1/2 inch, like this, okay? Doesn't have to be perfect. You know, I kind of did it sort of like in the middle, and I'm gonna pin it, okay? I'm gonna pin it in the middle, like this. And I did it out like this way because I'm gonna stitch and I don't want this to be on my way. Okay, so as you guys can see, and I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side because I wanna make sure they both symmetrical, okay? So I'm gonna move my fabric. Same thing, we have 1/2 inch seam allowance, right? On both sides, 1/2 inch seam allowance, 1/2 inch seam allowance. It doesn't have to, I don't have to trace everything, I just need to use this as a guide. So what I do is I put my finger right here and fold it, okay? And I'm gonna hold it right there, and I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. I'm gonna put my finger right here, and I'm gonna fold it like this. Make sure it's 1/2 inch, okay? And then I'm gonna use my hands to iron it, right? So I'm gonna do this really quick. Obviously, if you're using a fabric that is thicker, it's not gonna be as thin, so you might have to iron it to make sure it's flat. And I'm gonna repeat the same thing. Just one thing that I want to say, this is my top, right? So as you can see, I make the dart on this direction facing down. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side, right? I'm going to fold right here to come down like this. Okay, and I'm going to make sure it's symmetrical. So I'm going to fold it really quick to make sure it's symmetrical. So if it looks symmetrical, I think it looks symmetrical, then I'm going to pin it. And I know it's gonna try to move, so I'm gonna hold it. So I'm gonna hold it, and I'm gonna pin it. It's right there. Same thing, I'm gonna pin both like this. Okay. See how it's looking now? And it's symmetrical.
Great.
It's symmetrical that way, because if you do one and then do the other one, you might forget, and you might do this folding facing up instead of down. So that way I know it's symmetrical. Now, before I get to the sewing, my elastic is 5.5. That's based on most of the people that we made masks. Obviously, if you have somebody that have a smaller face, you might do a smaller elastic. That's kind of like gonna depend on, you know, who's gonna be wearing it. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna insert about, I'm gonna say like 1/4 inch of the elastic, okay? I know it's gonna be hard to see. I'm just gonna mark it. You don't have to mark it, but if it helps for you to guide you, like 1/2 inch, I mean 1/4 inch, then just do it, okay? So what I'm gonna do, it's that 1/4 inch is gonna go in, okay? Let me see, it's gonna go on the corner, and we're trying to place it as close to the edge as possible. I usually use my fingers as a stopping point. So I put my fingers right here, and then I just insert it right here, and then I stop right there, okay? Make sure it's in, okay? And I'm gonna pin it because I don't want my elastic to move. So I'm gonna pin it like this, okay? Like that. And I'm gonna hold my other side, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm placing my fingers as a stopping point at a 1/4 inch seam allowance from the edge, okay? And I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. I'm gonna insert it and wiggle it to make sure it goes in. Okay, and then I'm gonna pin it too. I'm gonna pin it just to hold it. Make sure it doesn't.
Wow, it's coming along. How's everyone's mask making coming out there?
I think it's coming out.
I think everyone's been, the chat's been pretty quiet, so I think everyone's working hard.
And it's, I mean, this is, I will say the elastic is maybe like a little complicated part, but everything else, as you guys saw, it was super basic, super easy. And I just want to make sure the elastic doesn't come off when we're stitching it. So now, once I have that, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, okay? And the reason why I'm prepping it is that way, when I bring it to the machine, then I'm just back stitching, keep going, back stitching, and then I'm done with this side, okay? So I'm gonna do the same thing. I hold my elastic at about 1/4 inch as a stopping point, and I'm gonna place it on this corner right here, wiggle it to make sure it goes in. And there's been times that I insert the elastic and I stitch it and it still come off, which is annoying, but you know, you have to, you know, just open it a little bit and then just do it again. I'm sure that anybody that's a seamstress knows that we spend a lot of time removing seams than, you know, sewing.
A lot of people are saying that this part has been very helpful for them and that they didn't necessarily think about the little pleat that you've done on the side there. So I think that you've taught people something new today.
Well, it's like, and the good thing, the best part of it is once we're done, it's going to be double-sided because my other side looks as clean as the other one too.
Amazing. I know some people were just asking about where the pattern will be available. So it will be available alongside Carolina's video on Monday on the Michaels website, so michaels.com/classes. So you can find the class there, as well as while you're on the Michaels website, find supplies you'll need to make masks.
Yes, and like I said, Michaels has a wide selection of fabrics, so you can literally pick anything that represents your personality or anything that you like. Okay, so now I'm gonna bring it to the sewing machine. As I mentioned earlier, we wanna try to go as close to the edge, but not too close to the edge. So I will say about maybe like 1/8 of an inch seam allowance from the edge, which is gonna be slightly like around here. And I'm gonna end slightly like around 1/8 of an inch from the edge, which is gonna be right here. And like I said, I'm gonna go all the way around. I mean, all the way straight right here and right here. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, right? Like 1/8 of an inch. Like I said, you don't want it too close to the edge and you don't want it too far out because remember, we only have about 1/4 of an inch of a seam allowance from the elastic inserted. So we're gonna make sure we catch that. And if you're doing it by hand, you will do the exact same thing. You will stitch by hand, but you're gonna make sure that you go over like a few times to make sure the elastic is not gonna come off when you're wearing it, okay? So now I can start on either one, my right side or my left side. I will start on this side. And just the same steps as before, we're gonna back stitch, and then we're gonna come in straight and then back stitch at the end. So I'm gonna remove my pin because it's kind of like on the way. And I'm gonna start slow back stitch. And I sometimes I like to go a few times because you don't want the elastic to come off, okay? And then I'm gonna go slow, and I'm gonna do the same thing on my other side, back stitch, and that's it, okay? The reason why we pin the elastic first is to make sure that my elastic is not crooked. You see how it's nice and flat, right? Because sometimes you could be sewing it, and it happened to me, you know, and we all make mistakes. That I bring my fabric to the machine and I'm sewing it, and then when I insert the other side, oh my God, I put it, you know, twisted. So now I have a twisted side. So that way, if you pin it before you sew it, you have a, you know, a nicer chance, and that way you won't have to removing seams because, oh my God, it's crooked, you know. And also what it helps is to make sure they're both the same length, okay? To make sure they're both symmetrical. So see, they're
Can you
both
make it adjustable, Carolina, or with this one, it's just one size?
Absolutely. This one is one size, but if you want to make the elastics, if you want to just add 2 strings, maybe like 8 inches in length that you can tie it, you can do that. The only reason why I made this one this way is because sometimes when I'm, you know, when I'm sewing, doing things like I don't want anything on my way, but it's up to you. This is your design. You can change this however you want it. Like I said, if you just want to add, you can make strings out of the same fabric if you want and just stitch them on the ends that you can tie it. I know some people like the elastic to go behind their face, you know, like on the back, because they feel like they feel more secure. You can do that as well. So now I'm gonna stitch.
Someone is also asking when they start, what's the best way to start so close to the end and not get the whole thing stuck in the sewing machine?
Say that one more time.
So when they, what's the best way to start so close? I think when you're working in such close parameters with the pins, how do you do it and then not get the whole thing stuck in the sewing machine?
So right here, right before I start stitching, I remove this pin because this is like literally like all my way right there. This one right here, not so much because I'm kind of like already out of the fabric. Yeah, I'll show you. Because sometimes the pins are kind of bulky, they get on the way, but they help. Like for example, this one is definitely helping me to hold this section folded, and I wouldn't want to do it this way because now most likely might be on the way. Or you know, sometimes people like to pin them really, really close. Like honestly, you don't have to do that. All you need is the fabric to be in place. Okay, so I like doing it this way. That way it's not on my way at all. And you can actually stitch over it. Like you'll be fine. Your needle won't break. So I'm gonna start right here, right? But before I start stitching, I'm gonna make sure that my foot of the machine, it's in place, holding the fabric, and then I can remove the pin. So I'm gonna bring it over here. See, I put the pressure on the corner. I'm gonna remove my pin, and I'm just gonna start slow. So I'm gonna do a couple of stitching, back stitch 3 times. And if the fabric moves, just lift your presser foot and just adjust it, okay? So bring it down and then just keep going.
And people are asking how you get your machine to stop from eating the fabric on this part.
I will think it's probably the machine, but what I will do before I start sewing this, the mask, just get a piece of fabric and just run it by itself to make sure the machine doesn't have anything stuck. Like sometimes the bobbin, the thread, if it's not, you know, you can have problems with the bobbin underneath. It could be something that maybe your machine is not threaded properly. I mean, it could be a couple of different things, but if you want to make sure that it's going to stitch right on your mask, just run a piece of fabric on its own to make sure the machine is going to run smooth.
Perfect.
Okay, so see right here that the foot of the machine is kind of like pushing my fabric. I'm going to lift it to make sure it's not, you know, nice and flat. Because remember, you control the machine. You move the machine in a way that is going to do the stitching that you want. So I'm going to continue. And you use your hands as a guide, okay? As you can see, I use my hands to hold the fabric, to guide the fabric, and to pivot in any way I want it. So I'm gonna go slow, and then I can remove my last pin right here, so that way it's out of the way. And I'm gonna hold it, and see, I'm using my hand to kind of guide my fabric so it doesn't go all over the place, because I'm gonna back stitch right here. practice a few times, and then I'm pretty much done.
Wow, look at that.
When you cut your thread, be careful, because sometimes people rush to cut it and you don't want to cut the elastic by accident. So you're going to do it nice and slow and make sure you cut, just what you need to cut. Because it happened to me that, sometimes by accident you're like, oh, let me cut this. And then accidentally you cut something out of the fabric. So this is pretty much it. Obviously, we need to iron it, right? So it can look nicer. But this is my final product. And like I said, it's double-sided, so I can wear it on this side. Let me put it on so you guys can see. Okay, and see, I have a nice seal right here. You guys can see it. There's no holes. And it fits at the bottom. It's very comfortable. You can breathe. Obviously, you can't eat, right? But you can breathe, you can talk. And you can turn it out, and you can have a total more conservative color, right? So I'm going to use this one. And it's the same thing.
That's the fashion designer in you, Carolina. Doing the neutral, doing the conservative, but then going bold on the other side. I personally like the cat one a lot. I thought it looked really great.
And this is totally functional, okay? So you guys can make different prints, solid colors if you want. And this is pretty much it.
Wonderful. Well, if there's any additional questions, feel free to chat it in the chat box. I know we've been asking a lot of questions throughout. I think a lot of people were following along. Carolina, it looked amazing. The mask looked awesome. I think the pattern was really fun. As I said before, everyone, you can go to michaels.com/classes. This will be recorded there and put there as of Monday, along with the pattern for the mask. So I don't see any additional questions. Anything you want to say before we jump off, Carolina?
Yes, so I saw somebody said about children masks.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you, you can use the same pattern. I'm going to upload the pattern. I'm going to give you the pattern, and you guys can use the same pattern. The only thing is you will cut, I'll give the instructions, but you will cut maybe like half inch from the bottom, okay? And then half inch from the side, and that's going to make you a smaller pattern. It also depends on the kid size, right? Some kids are 10, but they're big, or some kids are 5 and they're little, like super, super tiny. So it depends on but you can alter this pattern and make it smaller.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Carolina. Enjoy your day, everyone. Happy National Creativity Day. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.